Thank you so very much for staying with us here on News Talk. Bruce DuPoit with you on this Friday. Are you an introvert in an office where most people are outgoing? Do you find that coworkers just don't get your sense of humor? Whatever your individual personality is, there's a chance it is impacting your work life. In our Friday Focus on You this time, our workplace guru, Mary Abbajay, looks at how who we are affects us on the job. Mary is president of Careerstone Group. She's part of our regular rotation of experts here on the Friday Focus. Good to have you with us.
Hey, Bruce. Great to see you today.
It is great to have you here, and I'm excited about this topic because we all bring our personality to the office. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes maybe not so good.
Sometimes not so good.
How does personality impact our office interaction?
It impacts us because our personality is like our operating system. It's how we interact with the world. It's how we view the world and how we put things out into the world. And so different personality styles might get along really great, but sometimes they don't get along really great. So it's about understanding what your personality preferences are and if they're working for you or not. Because at the end of the day, you have a choice. It's just your operating system. It's not your program. So you can choose how to behave.
What are the personality type elements that most impact our work life, either for good or maybe in a way that poses challenges?
Not so good. Yeah, so there's lots of ways to slice and dice your personality. I think introversion or extroversion is one of the things that really come up quite frequently, and you can tell it right away. So an introvert, which is you and actually me.
And people will be like, what is she talking about? He's on TV.
She's crazy because she knows how to talk to people. I call myself a highly functioning introvert.
I call myself an introvert with a big ego.
There you go. I love that.
Which is different than being an extrovert.
Which is because introverts are all about the internal personality. So introverts get their energy from internal sources, through reflection, through lots of time alone. They don't want a live external stimulus, right? On the other side, extroverts get their energy from the outside world. So the more they're with people, the more energized they get. They like a lot of external stimulus, and that's how they operate.
So could an extrovert in a quiet office or in a small office feel like a fish out of water?
Yes.
And by contrast, then I suppose an introvert in a boisterous office or in a competitive environment, they're going to feel like they're always sort of playing against type?
That's exactly right. So extroverts are going to do best when they are around energetic office spaces. So they're going to like the open spaces. They're going to like working with people. They're going to like working in teams. They're going to like a lot of dialogue, a lot of discussion, a lot of like, oh, let's talk it out. Introverts are going to be better when they're like more quiet. They're not going to love the open offices. They're going to be great teleworkers. Not that they can't do this, but they're going to need time for reflection and some time to really be with their thoughts. And they gather their thoughts before they're going to want to talk to you about them.
One of the things we love about having Mary in is that she's very experienced. She knows the theoretical, but she's also really good and in fact gets paid actual money to solve practical problems. So let's open the phone lines. And if you have a question or comment about this aspect of work life, how personality impacts success or challenge in the work environment, join the conversation. The number's on your screen. Please dial now. Those of you watching in the 10 a.m. hour, that's when we can take your calls. 703-387-1020, that's our number. Dial now, please. I would love to get your question into the conversation. The sooner you call, the better I can talk with you. 703-387-1020. The number here. What other aspects of personality? In the introduction, I talked about, you know, I sort of joked that if coworkers don't get your sense of humor, you know, you could feel like a misfit. It goes beyond just that. Of course, that was almost a silly example I was using. If your coworkers don't get you, work is not going to be a happy place. That's right.
And you know, that goes a lot to what we call the difference between intent and impact, right? So intent is what we mean to do. It's like in our mind. Like, so an introvert may intend to be a good person, but you know, a good coworker, but their impact may cause misperceptions. So for example, some of the projections or misperceptions or stories we make up about introverts are that they're aloof, they're cold, their jokes may seem a little harsh because they come out of nowhere, and they're not very friendly, where projections we might make about extroverts, the perceptions, the impact is that they're loud, they're bossy, they need to be the center of attention. So sometimes people don't get you because they're operating from a different operating system.
So in a work environment where there are meetings or where there's collaboration, which is most places, bosses and supervisors need to be at least generally aware. Not that you have to be a PhD in Myers-Briggs, but you need to have some general sense of who your team is and who their broad personality types are, so that you can maybe coax the introverts out a little bit more and tell the extroverts to simmer down a little once in a while.
You're absolutely right. I mean, that is key. So leaders need to be what we call ambiverts, which are they need to be able to exercise both of the introvert and extroversion muscles. Because if you're in a meeting, the extroverts are going to jump right in, right? And the extroverts will talk over each other and they'll keep talking and they don't leave the space for the introverts. You know, and so introverts need to learn how to jump in, and extroverts need to learn how to like simmer it down. We have a funny thing we say for extroverts. They should put the word wait on their computer, which stands for why am I talking? Because extroverts don't like silence. Like they just can't keep talking. But for introverts, we say to them, you got to jump in. If you wait until your thoughts are perfect, the moment for your contribution may pass you by.
So when you're working with companies on their office climate and things of this nature, is this something you talk about at least to the group, if not to individuals?
Absolutely, and it's really amazing. It's such a simple model, but it really helps people understand each other. It helps them get rid of stories, and it helps the introverts and extroverts come up with strategies that they can work better and collaborate better together. You know, just because an introvert doesn't say hello to you in the morning doesn't mean that they're rude. It just means they're in their own head. And because an extrovert talks a lot doesn't mean they want to be the center of attention. They just want to be connected to you. So it can really help teams and groups really understand and really help their productivity and their collaboration.
I mentioned Myers-Briggs earlier, which some people will have experienced as it's kind of a workplace personality profile, right? It's always, you know, we answer the questions and we look to see what we are and who else is in our little square, and that's kind of fun, of course. But for me, one of the takeaways, and I did it 20 years ago, I think, is the realization that whatever an individual is, they come by their personality traits as honestly as you arrive at yours. So you might not like someone, or you might be like, why are they always like that? But at least you can take some comfort in knowing it's who they really are. They're not doing it intentionally to bug you, even though on our bad days it can feel that way. That's exactly right. I mean, that's about separating the intent from the impact. It's about understanding that we are all different and that no way is actually better than the other way. Like no personality preference for type is better, they're just different. And if we can really appreciate that the differences of personalities it's really helpful for the workplace. Do you advise introverts to sort of get over it? Yes. And yes. So America loves extroversion, right? Something like 71% of executives or leaders type as extroverts, even if they're not, because they've learned to have the extroversion skill. So I do tell introverts, you've got to up the game a little bit. I don't want to take away the beauty of what is an introvert. We bring lots of great stuff to the workplace, but in an American workplace climate, extroversion is really valued. And if you're a leader, you really have to extrovert because you are leading people. And in order to connect to people, you need to extrovert with them. Living inside your head is not going to really help inspire people to follow you. Does it help the bosses understand who brought about some sort of light bulb moment on a project that was deemed to be a success, so that you get at least as much credit as the other people, if not more, in those instances where you in fact deserve more? Absolutely, and that's something that introverts aren't very good at doing, is like tooting their own horn, and they need to do that a little bit. And we also advise extroverts to leave more space for the introverts. Like we say, count to 8 after you finish a sentence. They can maybe count to 3 because they also need to make space for the introvert, because introverts think first and then they speak, but extroverts often speak and think at the same time because that helps them speak. So things like that, and understanding how if you're just speaking, as an introvert, if you're an extrovert and you're just talking out loud, I'm going to get very confused because I think you've already made up your mind, because as an introvert, I'm not going to speak till I'm sure about what my thoughts are. So it can really help by understanding people. It's summer from Mars, summer from Venus. Forget the men and women. It's much more, well, it's just we're different. Yeah, we really are. And you can feel and see the energy. Like you can see extroverts right away because they're very gregarious, they're warm usually, and introverts tend to be a little more contained. You mentioned earlier office layout, the physicality of an office. Like it or not, plus, minus, whatever, the open work environment seems to be the new thing. Right. Likely, so it's going to be with us for a while, it would seem. Yeah, and I think that fewer offices, more big areas. And that really does tend to help the extroverts. That's more of an extroverted office space. Not that introverts can't be successful in them, but there's a lot of external stimulus going on, and while that's really great for extroverts, I hear from a lot of introverts they're being challenged by those kind of work environments.
Got to have a mix.
You get mad at me if I say I don't see the introvert, because I get that all the time.
I know. I will not get mad at you, because like you are an introvert with ego, I'm a gregarious introvert.
Yes. We're faking.
We are. We've learned how to do this.
Mary Abbajay is president of Careerstone Group. She is part of our regular Friday Focus on You circle of experts. It's always great having you here. We look forward to your visits. Thanks very much for stopping by. We're back with more News Talk right after this.